So I went to the movies, part of my birthday weekend. Today's my birthday. Wish me happy birthday in the comments, and then, talk about my hair. I don't know. But Captain America: Civil War came out over the weekend, and I saw it with Frank. Frank had not been to the movie theater in 4 years.
Since Avengers.
Right? Since Avengers.
Oh.
And this is a guy that loves the Nolan Batman trilogy. He thinks Dark Knight Rises is one of the best movies he's ever seen. And he's serious. I think it's an okay movie. I think Dark Knight's a lot better. Anyway, I couldn't get him in the theaters to see that. Couldn't get him to see that when that came out. A few years ago? 3 years ago, whatever it was.
Or more.
Couldn't get him to see that. So it's interesting that I got Frank to see this. He came over literally 2 days before when I had it on DVR, Age of Ultron, since he didn't see that. And you really need to see Age of Ultron before Civil War.
You think?
Yes, absolutely, you do. You do. People in the comments agree, but you do have to see Age of Ultron. And Avengers, you should. Other than that, maybe Winter Soldier to a smaller degree. Anyway, so he saw the backstory.
Oh, no, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely, you're right. You have to. Okay.
You have to see that. So he went to the movies with me. We checked out our new movie theater nearby, which me and Ian were gushing about before. And I saw Captain America: Civil War. And it lived up to the hype. It was a very good movie. Was it my favorite MCU movie? I might have to stick with Winter Soldier for that.
I stick with Winter Soldier, actually.
Because this is what I'm going to say, and people say you're crazy. Winter Soldier was a better movie, but I enjoyed Civil War more. I can objectively say that Winter Soldier had a tighter narrative, because obviously there's only a couple of characters you have to worry about. It was a better sort of through line of what's going on. Even though it weaved in and out, it was like, okay, there's a somewhat of a linear plot we're following here with twists and turns. Civil War had to juggle about 3 or 4 subplots, characters coming in and out, and maybe, subplots not being as gifted with a bow as much as you'd like, For example, like Vision and Scarlet Witch is one prime example with that. And then plus you had to deal with bringing in and introducing Black Panther and trying to have him weave through the story, which they mostly were successful with. I'll get into that. And of course, introducing Spider-Man. But otherwise, to me, it's unbelievable that the Russo brothers managed to do what they did with this movie.
Sure.
And have it stand.
It's
not have it crumble under its own weight.
It's a feat. It's definitely a feat for sure. I would have to say that, yes, Winter Soldier is the easy pick for me still as my number one. I greatly enjoyed Civil War. The action was tight and fantastic.
Oh my god.
It also had far more action than I expected. If you've ever read the Civil War comic, there's and this is something that I did miss. I wish there was a little bit more pondering, I guess, on the morality of these Sokovia Accords, as they called them in the movie. But the action was fantastic. Every single action scene was amazing. And what was amazing to me was how they balanced the tone and the mood of the movie. It starts pretty serious, and then it gets pretty lighthearted. I mean, to a degree, in the center of the movie. I mean, I'm not saying it turns into a fucking slapstick comedy, but there's levity. There's
levity. There's moments of levity. Yes.
Something that they always that critics smashed Batman vs Superman for. There was levity in this movie in spots where it was needed. There were still laughs. I mean, there are going to be minor spoilers here as we talk, obviously.
No, there's going to be spoilers.
Spoilers. Know that. Put it in the fucking headline so people don't cry about it in the link. But the middle fight scene, where the airport fight scene.
End of the second act, basically.
Yeah. Fantastic action, had impact and weight in terms of the story, but also had some of the funniest one-liners during the film.
Yes, it's been hyperbole, but that is the finest superhero fight ever put on screen.
Yeah, it's incredible.
There's not even a close second.
No.
Because you had to balance 12 characters, have them all get their shots in, so to speak, and use their powers, but then use it in conjunction with other heroes and have it all make sense, and have the fight geographically make sense at the same time, and have clear objectives between what one character is doing to help another one, to avoid another character, and to pull that all off, the choreography of doing that, whilst, like I said, still having the characters show their personality while they fight and why they are fighting. For example, Spider-Man saying, "You're doing something bad according to Mr. Stark. I want to stop you."
Right.
Or Captain America trying to explain why are you fighting here? You know, that is, on paper, that could seem easy, but in actuality, that to me was incredible, that fight scene.
When we talked about Winter Soldier 2 years ago, we commended them for their directing and how at any given time during an action scene, you knew who was where and what was going on. And
the street fight, which was based off of Heat. Yes.
When I went into this movie, I went in saying in my head, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to see if they can pull it off. And they did. You basically knew what was going on at all times, which is incredible for an ensemble. This is also where the movie does falter a little bit for me. And don't get me wrong, the movie was great. Winter Soldier had a much clearer idea, I think, of what was going on, because you could focus on the story of just a few characters, like you had mentioned earlier. And this is a sticking point for me. This was like Avengers 2.5.
Sure.
This was a Captain America movie, yes, but it was still heavily focused on ensemble. And when you have an ensemble, at least for me, I always find myself wishing I could know a little bit more about what's going on with the other characters. And that, even at 2.5 hours, the Vision Scarlet Witch one is a big one. I just wish there'd been a little bit more. I wish there'd been a little bit more Clint Barton. I wish there'd been more Hawkeye, because Hawkeye, in my opinion, has gotten better and better with each movie, and he's becoming more and more, even though his life is in his background is different in the Marvel movie universe, he's becoming more and more the character that I love in the comics. And I really enjoy Hawkeye for that reason, and I wish they had done more with Hawkeye. Spider-Man, of course, he was only going to, Spider-Man was integral to the airport fight, but I understand why. You got to introduce him little by little. And by the way, pitch fucking perfect. My wife, who does not particularly like Spider-Man, as we're leaving the theater, goes, I've never been so excited for a Spider-Man movie in my life. She's all on board with this guy. But let me just, before we jump back to you, my other problem with the movie is the ending. And it's the actual, let me commend it for something first. I really love how this movie kind of subverted you. There really was no big villain other than the internal fighting. They lead you on that they're going to be fighting these 5 other Winter Soldiers at the end, and they leave it to the last minute when they finally get to where they're being held, and they all have bullets in their head, because the main bad guy is a wimpy little shrimp of an ex-commander who his family was killed in Sokovia during Avengers 2, and there was no climatic battle with a major super villain. It was Iron Man and Captain America fighting each other. So I found that to be, I can't quite put in words, but I just think that's fantastic, that up until the last moment, you think they're going to find a way to pull out a big supervillain set piece, and they don't.
They say,
So that's great. My problem is, afterwards, I started to wonder, where are you going with this and how are you going to end it? And I don't think they knew how to either.
Oh, okay. This is where I think you're not seeing they set up the entire future of
I see, but I'm just talking about the immediate ending. I know they're setting things up, but the whole cell phone and the letter thing, it was just like, well, we got to put a fucking bow on this somewhere.
This is why I love this movie. And I will see it again. Maybe when I see it again, I might like it as much as Winter Soldier. It'll inch closer to it. Because of exactly that. There is no... This isn't like, the world's going to end. This isn't like, we have to stop this. They thought it was, but it wasn't.
Right.
The villain was beautiful.
Yeah, I agree.
after almost every fucking major Marvel villain in these movies being a giant fucking robot or another robot they gotta beat or Ultron or aliens, it's just a guy who wants revenge, and he does it in an intelligent way.
Yep.
And it's brilliantly throughout the film a mystery of what the hell this guy is doing, because you don't know what he's doing.
Right.
It's scene after scene with him getting the code book for Winter Soldier. He actually fucking kills a member of Hydra to get it.
Yep.
So he's going after a bad guy and getting it, and then the whole plan with the bomb at the UN, and then killing the guy to pretend he's the psychologist, talking to Winter Soldier. He's very intelligent, but he says at the end of the movie, "I know I can't beat these guys with these guys. They'll kill me. Ultron couldn't beat him. I can't beat them.
Right.
They're gonna beat themselves." Brilliant.
Yeah. No, I thought it was fantastic.
That was a red herring that I don't think anyone saw coming.
Nope.
That you said, oh, they're going to get Iron Man, Winter Soldier, and Captain America. They're going to fight these Winter Soldiers, and then something's going to happen, or they have to beat each other up. Oh, no.
See, I was hoping and I thought that the movie would be smarter than to do this, but especially after the whole Batman versus Superman, we're going to fight each other, and then, oh no,
we're going to fight Doomsday.
Now we're going to fight Doomsday because, they didn't. There never was that reconciliation point where all of a sudden you had to fight it, and they teased it the whole goddamn time, and that's what made the movie brilliant. Like I said, don't take it the wrong way. I don't think the movie wasn't, and yes, I know they set it up. I guess I don't know how you could have ended it better, but it just seemed to wrap up so quick in those last 5 minutes.
Well, here's the thing. The runtime, they probably cut 15 minutes out of this.
Yes.
This is where, but this movie flew by.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't seem like a 2.5 hour movie.
There was really only 4 action scenes in the movie.
Yeah, it felt like it was packed.
The great intro where you saw the Avenger team, the new Avenger team, going down to Lagos. You had the Black Panther chasing after Winter Soldier.
Black Panther.
And that was, can I just say how awesome it was that you actually bought the fact that they were running like 25, 30 miles an hour in between cars, and it actually looked like they were doing that.
Yep.
So that was the second fight scene. Obviously, you have the huge airport fight, which was like 20 minutes long, and it flew by. And then you have the last intimate fight.
Oh, don't forget the stairwell fight.
Was that leading up to the chasing Winter Soldier? That was all one big sequence?
It was, but I look at it separately because the choreography in that stairwell fight was fucking fantastic.
Was that also so that was all one big sequence then?
I think it was. That's the thing. The fight sequences in this and the non-fight sequences just flowed so easily into each other that it's actually, unlike most movies, it's really hard to chop it up into fight dialogue, fight dialogue, fight dialogue.
But this is why I love this movie. Because they didn't go for we blew our wad in Act 2 with this awesome superhero fight, which we haven't even really talked about that fight, what happens in it. So then the last final fight will be a letdown. No, the final fight was even more devastating to watch.
Yeah,
it was nuts.
Did you think they were going to kill someone off? I kind of thought they might go crazy and kill off Bucky.
I thought that they might, but the emotional... This is why I love the Russo brothers, because... I always maintain killing off a character while it takes a team of balls is the cheapest way to get heat.
Sure.
They got heat without killing off a major character.
No,
they got just as much heat, if not more. Even I knew they weren't killing off War Machine if they showed it in the trailer.
Yeah.
So that to me was just as devastating because he's fucking paralyzed.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Right. And
even if Stark can help him out with his technology, which he shows at the end, he's paralyzed. But I loved even War Machine said, yeah, well, I signed up for this. I believed in it. I love the fact that they made it clear with every single one of those characters why they were motivated to pick the side they were doing.
Yep.
That was extremely important. Maybe to a lesser extent, if you want to say to a lesser extent, Ant-Man, he hates authority and he loves Captain America. If you want to say that. But everyone else had a clear reason.
And to keep it realistic, I mean, that they've built her character to be this way, but it was I think it was telegraphed from a mile away, but it was also good that they had the conflicted
Black Widow. Yeah, that worked well.
Yes.
And it made sense, and it was great because she sided with Tony for once. And that's where I liked it, again, is that the movie didn't force you to take one side or the other. It just said, here's the motivations of both. We've laid them all out, and you choose. And maybe you don't make a choice. Maybe you think there's good point. I think there's good points to both. I think this is great. This isn't a black or white thing to me. Then that's what's so heartbreaking in that final battle, is that you're watching two people fight where I could see both their points. Well, it was nuts, and especially with that reveal at the end, which I'm not going to say I'm smarter than other people, but I've seen people say they didn't see that coming. I saw it coming. I think it was telegraphed for me personally. The twist at the end, which was that Winter Soldier kills, was the one that killed the Stark parents back in '91.
It didn't blow my mind, but it wasn't really at the forefront. I mean, I didn't.
Well,
I don't think I necessarily saw it coming.
I put it together after, first of all, the beginning of the movie where they showed the de-aged Robert Downey Jr. when he was like 18, which was amazing effects.
Right.
That was incredible.
I scrutinized that as soon. I literally just looked at his face. I'm like, this is amazing.
What is this? What are we watching? Weird Science again?
Yeah.
Like 85, 86? I mean, they did it in Ant-Man with Michael Douglas, and it was convincing there, too, to de-age him to about, I don't know, 40-ish, 45-ish.
Right.
But here, you're taking 30 years off the guy's life. Robert Downey Jr. is like 50 years old. Dude. He's like a teenager there. So when he mentioned, that was the last time I saw him on the way to the airport, and then they cut to, the car, and then I'm like, okay, I put it together then. But it still didn't lessen the impact of seeing it. I won't ask plot hole why there was a closed circuit television on the road there that happened to tape the accident. I thought they mentioned it. I thought they mentioned that there was. I could have sworn there was a mention that there was, because I think it was a road near their house. I think there were security cameras on the road. So I must have missed that, but
I could be wrong. But I seem to recall
that scene. Even the reveal was beautifully done and fucking brutal.
Yeah.
The fact that like Bucky knows he did it and knows he can't say anything, and you find out that Steve knows it, and Steve didn't want to say anything. It was so tragic because all the reasons for keeping it secret were valid.
Yes.
Because the result was Tony goes nuts, and rightfully so.
Right.
And he says I don't give a shit if he didn't know it. He killed my mom.
Right.
And you understand that. Like, if you were in this situation, you probably say, yeah, fuck you, I'm going to kill you too. I don't care if you were brainwashed. You deserve to die. And Bucky was responsible for other deaths that had happened, and people that gotten hurt when they were escaping and things like that nature. So yeah, maybe Bucky should have been killed. It would have prevented other people from. These are the questions that the movie brings up. I will say though that the fact that it did turn it from a morality at the end to, well, he killed my parents.
See, that
did bother me.
Yes,
a little bit,
because all of a sudden that whole Sokovia stuff, it shifts from being moralistic to personal.
Yes, I understand that, but it seemed like they did sort of patch up to that point, though. So you need something, I think, extreme to have them come to blows, and there's nothing more extreme than you killed my parents.
Sure.
And seeing it on screen was, holy shit, they actually showed Bucky. They didn't shy away from doing it off screen. They showed, no, here's Bucky. You like Bucky? You're about to see him kill two people in cold blood, and they showed it.
Yep.
Just smashing the father's head in, and then the mom screaming, and then he just chokes her. I mean, it was fucking one of the most brutal things I've seen in a
Marvel movie. Yeah,
just by how visceral it was. And Tony is just looking at it like, and I think there was like a slight violin swell only. It was mostly silent when that happened. You're like, oh fuck,
yeah,
this is gonna go down. Like, and this is not gonna be fun and pretty. And it wasn't pretty. And even then, the movie didn't ask you to pick a side.
Right.
It even went into like Tony's helmet when his AI is telling him you can't beat him 1-on-1. So it's actually like, wow, it's like Tony's now the protagonist fighting these villains and trying to get Bucky, but then Captain America's trying to save Buck. The balancing act they did for you to take a side, at least the writers and directors not taking a side, to me was brilliant. Mm-hmm. Like right down the middle.
Sure.
Like half the movie is Stark trying to play politics, trying to hold the team together and not throw Cap in jail. Like he's on the phone, like, holy, like, fuck, like I'm trying to keep us together, and you're out up in Germany, beating up the German SWAT team with Bucky. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, what do you think? Like, it's just a tragedy that you see just unwind slowly throughout. So to me, that's even better structure than at the start. Well, we just don't like each other because we both disagree and go at it. Or for the whole movie, it winds its way through, and the whole time they're both trying to make it up. Or even at the airport, it's like, come on, just come on, come on.
Right.
And it's like, no, absolutely not. Cap's like, absolutely not. So real quick, you touched on Spider-Man and how much Vine was pleased. Imagine how pleased I was.
Sure.
Spider-Man's my favorite one. And they had to do it quick. The introduction, I love the introduction.
The introduction was good.
I love the fact that they just assume you know how fucking Spider-Man got his powers. You've seen it twice in the past 15 years. But they still alluded to it, though. So, Tony's like, how'd you get his powers? It's like, this thing happened.
Yeah, but he keeps interrupting him, which I thought was funny. Like, I mean, that was a very big meta joke, was we don't need to go over your fucking origin again.
Yeah, this thing happened, and I go the sensory overload, and then they bring up the webs real quick, and he said, yeah, I made them. I made that.
Yep, thank fucking
You must have loved the little, was it an Apple II or Macintosh in the corner?
There was a little Macintosh in the corner, yeah.
So, here's the thing that I realized he had an accent, a New York accent, which it clicked with me, but I watched Kevin Smith talk about it. It's actually a Queens accent.
Oh, really?
A specific Queens accent, which I'm not too familiar with. That's brilliant because Tobey Maguire never had a New York accent.
No.
And neither did Andrew Garfield.
Mm-mm.
And he's a kid growing up in Queens. Of course he'd have a New York accent. It's something so simple that you take for granted. And it adds so much more to the character that now I can't imagine him with not having it. Whenever I read Spider-Man before, I never read it with that accent, but I should have.
Yes. It makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. But that's only something Marvel has thought of once they got the character. That's why it's so important that Marvel has the character. Because they really fucking care about Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is the best Spider-Man on film ever.
Oh,
I know it's only been, well, if you count the TV show one. Perfect as Peter.
Perfect as Spider-Man.
I always said that Andrew Garfield was pretty good or good as Spider-Man. Perfect as Spider-Man. Perfect because, again, he's a kid, but he's carefree. The quips, stopping Bucky's bionic arm and saying, "Oh, you got a metal arm? That's so cool." That's something Spider-Man would do. Because he can get away with it because he's so powerful. All the other heroes, Captain America can't really stop that arm,
but he's also
Spider-Man
a kid.
can.
I mean,
But he's also a kid. So he loves. So you see the wonder of Spider-Man while he's getting into it for the first time with his characters around him. But he's more powerful than them. Maybe he doesn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
But he just beautiful. Like the fact that Spider-Man took out Winter Soldier and Falcon. And while bothering the shit out of them, that was never done. That was never shown in the Raimi movies at all. That taunting to that extent, and really not even with Andrew Garfield. Again, against the Falcon. By the way, Falcon was badass in this movie.
Oh yeah, he was
all
fantastic.
The fact that they're making Falcon's wings as a shield, and they're moving, and of course the drone is fantastic. Red Wing. Love what they've done with Falcon. Love what they've done with them. But Spider-Man was absolute perfection. I don't care that they put him in just to set up the movie next year because it was fantastic. And of course the great Captain America little Spider-Man fight was insane. And of course, I can't imagine if I was living in Brooklyn or Queens, but their exchange, "Hey kid, where are you from?" Queens, Brooklyn. It's just a little heartwarming little moment to humanize both characters and let you know these are people. These aren't just like, action figures in the scene. There's humanity to these characters.
Yeah.
And real quick though, the one part I do not think they did a great job with, again, Vision and Scarlet Witch, especially in that battle. They're so powerful, you almost forgot that they were there because how can you keep those two characters busy while everything else is going on?
Well, I love Scarlet Witch, but yeah, I mean, what they did for her was they basically kept her busy by making sure not everything was falling on people.
But Vision could take care of most of those guys by himself if you really wanted.
I feel like Vision was probably the weakest portrayed in that movie.
I like, first of all, I liked how he was portrayed. I think Paul Bettany's doing a great job with it.
No, he is. I mean, the weakest represented is maybe a better way to put it.
He doesn't have a lot to do, and he was sort of dropped into Age of Ultron out of nowhere. So here you go, take Vision. Like, we had to introduce him. So they had to do something with him, but the story arc with him and Scarlet Witch to me is sort of like, why does he like her again? Like, because they made food together? They try to drop that, well, she has a humanity that he's interested in because other people are scared of her because she's powerful. I understand that, but it wasn't fleshed out enough for me to get behind it.
Right.
But otherwise, I love the Vision character in the movies. I still do.
No, I think he's great, and I love the Scarlet Witch character. And this is what I touched upon with ensemble movies. I wish we could have delved a little bit deeper, but at 2.5 hours, you can't be making Return of the King here.
Yes, and I'm hoping there's going to be a director's cut. Let's talk about Black Panther real quick. We only talked about it. Great character, great introduction. Again, I love the fact that we need a fucking origin dropped in the middle of the movie. It's you know
it's
kinda explains it
introduced as the action's going. Black Panther is not just me. It's been a protector for Wakanda for generations.
It's like the Phantom, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
From the old pulps where it gets passed down.
I can't remember the actor's name. I can't remember anyone.
Chad Boseman.
Right. Okay. And I couldn't remember.
Who's already done James Brown and Jackie Robinson. Now he's Black Panther. Like he's blowing up. This kid.
He was awesome. I thought he was fantastic. I wish
he had more to do in the third act.
Yes, exactly.
I almost felt like they should have just not had him at all in the third act, because it was sort of like his only character arc went from I want revenge. Well, I see what you've done to these other people, so I now feel I don't need revenge anymore.
I thought it was good. It was just because he had so little to do in the beginning of the third act, it was just kind of dropped in.
Yes. I understand, though. And
they needed a hero to be there to do the functions that he did.
To not give Zemo the easy way out of committing suicide.
Right.
Which is heroic in of itself. He could have killed the guy easily. You expect him to just kill the guy. He's like, no.
Well, he was going to, and then, he retracts his claws.
Yeah, because you heard the reason for him to doing it, and you're like, well, this is actually a sympathetic villain, which are always the best villain. It's like, he lost his family to these superheroes. And remember at the beginning of the movie, Tony Stark heard losing the son, so it's like, the motivations for all the characters were there. The action was great. Paul Rudd is fantastic as Ant-Man.
Yes.
If you've not seen Ant-Man, you've seen
I haven't, but I mean, he was great in that.
Holy fuck.
In this movie.
It's funny because when Frank saw that, he asked who it was. He thought it was Deadpool. I'm like, Frank, that's a different movie. It's not Deadpool. I told you that. You got to see Ant-Man. Paul Rudd is just magical.
I mean, I plan on it.
Shaking your hand too long.
Yeah.
And the giant man.
I am your conscience. When he's running through Iron Man's suit.
And I marked out when it was Giant Man and went, whoa! When he held it, who was he holding in his hand? Was it War Machine?
Yes. Yeah, he flings War Machine.
Again, him and Spider-Man brought the levity to it on opposite sides that you needed for that battle.
Yep.
So it wasn't just... And again, you know what I like about this movie? It was all shot in daylight. There was no scenes at night. And the effects were fantastic. Mm-hmm. And you could see everything clearly.
Yep.
And Spider-Man was great. Can I just say Spider-Man was great? Because Spider-Man was great. And I'm a big Spider-Man fan. Like Ian touched upon, that Vonnie said that I didn't give a shit. I was not really looking forward to this amazing Spider-Man movie. To me, I was like, well, I got to see him. I really want to see Homecoming, like now.
Yeah.
I want to see him now.
Oh yeah,
Tom Holland did a fantastic job, and
that's his name.
Yeah, Tom Holland.
I'm forgetting all the actor names.
Great chemistry with Robert Downey Jr., which is why you're going to have Iron Man and Homecoming at least, and some other villains might show up. Great job. We're going on forever for this. So again, I enjoyed it a lot. I might have enjoyed it more than Winter Soldier, but I think Winter Soldier was a better crafted film. But I'm not faulting the Russo brothers for that at all, because there was so much more they had they had a balance, like juggling act with this movie.
I mean, yeah, and that's where I stand too. Winter Soldier was an extremely tight, packed narrative, just perfectly done. Its flaw was in the very nature of the story, I think, in that it had to have been an ensemble movie, and for me, ensemble movies are never going to be as good as more tightly focused on one or two or three character movies.
And that last fight scene was brutal, but I loved it. Like, it had to be that brutal.
Yeah.
Just bloody, and they even had that one shot from Civil War where the shield against the beams coming out.